Hello YouTube, this is Hemingray 1893 saying, if you think Dunlap is a tire brand, do not watch this video. In fact, never watch a video on my channel ever again. Anyway, man, I love it when neighbors are moving. So do they. I get to go take neat stuff like this out of their trash. And they get to move away from the guy that keeps taking stuff out of their trash. I was going out the other night, just walking around. I happened to see this lovely cabinet set. And I'm like, I know the perfect use for that. Actually, I didn't, but I grabbed it anyway. 10 minutes later, I knew the perfect use for it. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Probably not. But in the event you're thinking, icebox, well, let's get started. Imagine relying on a refrigerator. Just kidding. This is intended to be a craft project only. Do not attempt to use this as an alternative or a replacement for mechanical refrigeration. At least that is the disclaimer I will give. But what I will do now is just go over what makes this little cabinet ideal for what we're doing. You know, good question. Number one, it's made of actual wood. I'm not saying you couldn't build one out of particle board or something. You know, you just get a cheap IKEA cabinet set. It'll probably work. I don't know about the insulating properties of wood versus pressboard, but it'll probably work. What you definitely don't want is to use a cabinet such as the stereo cabinet that has a glass front. That will be very bad for thermal efficiency. Plus the glass will probably just fog up anyway, so you're not really gaining anything. But also, this is relatively small, so I think it actually has a chance of working, like half decently. And it has two shelves, an upper and a lower. Ideally, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put your ice or your ice packs or something up here in some sort of tray with obviously a drip tube. And the stuff to keep cool is gonna go down here. We're also gonna build some little like duct that goes up the back, another one that goes from this shelf down to about an inch off the bottom to encourage convection, and we're gonna get to that a little bit later. But for now, the first thing we have to do is go through this and seal it up. Because you notice there are some little gaps in the wood. I don't think air can come through them, but they're just big enough that, you know, you want to seal those up. And we're also going to do something to seal up this door. So let's get started on that real quick. All right. Just ignore this and these holes in that for now. I had to do a little bit of time traveling. You'll understand in the future. Anyway, I did mention that one of the first things we're going to have to do with this is we're going to have to seal it. Again, just for basic energy efficiency, I'm not going to be expecting this thing to hold like 35 degrees or something, but let's at least try to get, you know, as long of a life as we can out of our ice and that. I did mention some of these back there. You can see a little pinhole there. You're not going to lose much of any heat through that, but I'd feel more comfortable sealing it. Also down here along the bottom, it's there could be gaps there. For that, we're just going to use some regular tub and tile caulk. And I'm also going to try to lay a bead along here and probably up around the door frame on the top of here, yada, yada, yada. Now, here's where I run into a little bit of an issue. Shut the door. There's a little bit of a gap there, about 1/16 of an inch. How are you supposed to seal that? Well, I went in my garage and might have found something that'll work. I had a junk piece of this old quarter round. I did have to trim a couple of inches off of it. Here's what it is. It's actually lining for stairs. So I decided what I can do is glue it down inside the door frame. And how we're going to line it up for contact is we're just going to put it really far forward. We're going to shut the door. Now that might have been a little harsh because it pushed it back really far. I'm going to do that more gently. That'll tell us where we need to glue this down. Right there. We can glue this down right there, and then we can put a bead of caulk on the front of it to seal the door. Now, you don't have to use quarter round. I just had it and it was already painted white, and I thought it looked good. You could use just any piece of wood or plastic or anything really, but you don't even have to do this, especially if you have a differently designed cabinet, but this is just what I've chosen to do to seal my cabinet. So I'm gonna go get started with that and then we'll be ready to move on. That will definitely help keep air out. I also took the shelf off and put a bead of caulk along the edge here so it doesn't leak out the sides. Not that that's entirely necessary. I just kind of felt the need to do that to maximize convection with the system I'm gonna do. Then on the outside, this one's probably gonna seal the best because it's actually pressing against two surfaces. This and this. I don't know how well this one's gonna work, and the one on top, but we'll see, kind of going off the attitude that anything is better than nothing here. I also noticed this huge gap in there, so I put some caulk in there and stuffed a couple of popsicle sticks up there. No one's gonna see it. I figure that's the best thing I can do on the fly. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this is all sealed up for our purposes. Obviously, do not shut the door on any of these until it is fully cured. Make sure you read the back of the tube to know curing time, curing temperature, etc. So we're gonna come revisit this then in a couple of days. I do apologize for doing some elements a little out of order. I'm currently racing a cold weather pattern, so I'm trying to do anything that requires outdoor work first. However, for the sake of the video continuity, the next thing that you would do is make the air duct that would come off of this shelf and go down here and end about an inch off the floor. For that, I've cut this piece of 2.5 inch exhaust pipe. It's just what I had laying around. I think it's aluminumized, so hopefully it should stay relatively shiny. However, this is just an air duct. You could make it out of any sort of pipe. You can make it out of a plastic tube. You can make it out of a PVC pipe. It could really be anything, as long as it's hollow and can probably move a somewhat reasonable volume of air. it's not even for the CFM like flow rate. I'm afraid air won't flow very good via convection if it's too restrictive. That's my only concern here. Regardless, you would take it, put it in the ground, mount it in here. It ends about a foot off the ground. I did put a little bit of a notch that would face inward, just to encourage a little more airflow. You'd put it probably in the corner back here. Now, probably seeing this is going to involve cutting a hole in this shelf, a round hole. And to do that, I get to employ this. You may or may not have seen these before. This is an expansive drill bit. It was made by the Clark Conval company. I don't actually know if Conval is short for anything, but anytime I look it up on the internet, it just comes up as Clark Conval company. So if anybody would like to enlighten me in the comments, I would appreciate that. But what this is you see this main blade right here goes out between 2 and 3 inches. So, what we can do with this is we can loosen this screw right here, and we can move this blade out to be 2 1/4 inches, 2.25 inches, which I believe is the outer diameter of this pipe. And it basically acts as an adjustable hole saw. That's pretty neat. I do believe these are still made by Irwin. However, I don't think the Irwin ones, and these are kind of hard to find nowadays, have the square tangs on the end. Specifically for going in a 2-jaw chuck. So this will fit very nicely in my vintage Craftsman bit brace. So let's cut the hole for that outside really quick. Really quick interjection I would like to make regarding a statement I made about flow rate with the downdraft air duct. I did mention I was not concerned about flow rate, but you wanted it to be large enough to have a decent flow rate for convection. And what I meant by that is this is not a forced air system. Now, convection naturally uses the principle that heat will rise and cool will sink. Hot air will rise, cold air will sink. It happens in liquids too. In fact, Ford Model Ts did not have a water pump on them simply for that reason. Probably why they overheated quite a bit, but that's besides the point. Now, since this is not a forced air system, you kind of need to have a pipe large enough where there's a large enough volume of air that will move down this pipe and be able to displace the air on the lower compartment in the icebox and force that up the other air duct, which has to be large enough to where it's not restrictive to that air moving. That's what I meant. So you cannot have your air ducts necessarily be tiny, but you know, this is a 2 1/4 inch pipe. This is perfectly adequate. Now, could you add a forced air system into this and use a smaller pipe? Absolutely. Unless you had it on some sort of timer or thermostat. I don't know how you would do that. Unless you had to have somebody come by and like hold a button for 5 seconds every 20 minutes. I don't know, but I'm just going to say that, and I would just like to say that just to clarify that statement. Addendum number 2. Because this is not a forced air system, straighter is better with your air ducts. You do not want to have any elbows, any bends, and especially any J-traps. Anywhere where cold air can pool or it can restrict that airflow. A straight shot is always better for a naturally moving volume of air. Ready? This might not be the sharpest thing. We're through. Now we are through. Oh, we might just be getting a little jammed up here. It should work better than this, in my defense. As per usual, give me a second while I deal with this. Here's a bit brace tip. Flip it over to the other side. Oh, there we go. And look at how clean that hole is. Not bad, given the fact that this bit's extremely old, has probably never been sharpened before, and I obviously, this is the first time I've ever used it, so I'll take it. Well, now, our downdraft air duct will go in. Excellent. Next, we have to make the drain tube for the ice tray. For that, I got this junk piece of copper pipe. I don't know what size this is. I want to say this is 5/8 or something. You do not have to use copper pipe. I like copper pipe for the decorative value, so I figured I'll use copper pipe. But again, we're going to assume the water that comes out of here is non-potable, so you can go ahead and use PVC pipe, or I wouldn't recommend using like old electrical conduit. That would rust because it's galvanized. It's not supposed to, but you know, it'll get that ugly rust on it, especially because some of that stuff I think is kind of cheaply galvanized. But regardless, any sort of tube can be used, although this one must be watertight because it will be transporting water. Now the idea with this one is it's going to go up through the bottom to the water tray. So we're gonna have to drill a hole probably about here, maybe off to the side further, that goes through both this shelf and the bottom of the cabinet. So the easiest thing to do is probably going to be to drill out the bottom of the cabinet first. And I get to employ more of my bits today. I have this old Irwin auger bit that I get to employ. Come on, focus. It doesn't want to focus today. Oh well. But I get to use it, so I'm excited. Alright. Let's hope this one goes through a lot better. That made quick work of it. Like, power drills should be put to shame. Okay, we did have some big chips come out of it. Nothing a little glue can't fix. Just for aesthetic purposes. So I'm going to make sure to put these off to the side and save them. Really what you'd want to do, and I'm going to make sure to do it on the shelf, is you would want to, when the pointed part of this comes through, you'd want to flip your workpiece over. But obviously I can't do that with this. So we were just limited by the dimensions. But once again, I can't argue with that. All right, now I think it's time to move on to our updraft duct. Ideally, what we would want to do, well, what you may want to do, is take a second piece of stock, similar in size to your downdraft duct. It could even be a piece of your downdraft duct. And you would want to go over here, kitty corner from it. You can tell I'm from the Chicago area. Cut a hole and put your updraft duct up over there. Now, for example, and this is just what I'm thinking, this is a 2 1/4 inch pipe. You would want to cut maybe a 2 1/8 inch hole, then cut your stock length about 5 to 6 inches, put it over the hole and just glue it down. That'd probably be the best thing to do for an updraft duct. Because, you know, cold air sinks, warm air will rise, you'll get convection. But that's not what I've chosen to do with this one. See, my cabinet has this gap back here behind the shelf. And I figured rather than just gluing a block of wood down back there and sealing it, I would use that gap as my updraft duct. And somebody just happened to leave this big piece of stainless steel on our kitchen table. It would be such a waste to not put it to use. So, I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this into a square, maybe just so it goes a couple of inches higher than the back of the shelf, maybe like up to here. And then I'm just going to screw it down on the sides and probably caulk the edges as well. So to do that, I'm going to use my vintage Craftsman tin snips. I always love this color. And then to clean it up, we have this old Keller file. Very important that you file down those rough edges, especially given that this will be in possibly somewhat regular use or whatnot. You don't want to cut yourself. That's my safety message. But I'm going to get started on that so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So that's what my updraft duct looks like. There's the downdraft. And you can see air can just come freely up behind that. So it looks good. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my attention to the drip tube. As you can see, I got a piece of copper pipe here. You can use PVC pipe, fish tank tubing, whatever. And eventually, you're going to have your ice tray. This is for representational purposes only. I'm going to get a much better tray. And obviously, when the ice melts, it'll have a way to drain to the collection pan on the bottom. In terms of mounting the drip tube, I actually mired over this for a couple of weeks because I really did not know what to do, or at least like what would be an aesthetically pleasing solution. Instead, I decided the quickest and easiest way was going to be to just drill 2 holes in it on opposite sides and pass a piece of copper wire through that would hold it to the shelf. And then when I put it through the bottom, I sealed it with some foam tape because, again, that was a quick and easy way to seal the bottom. Moving on. So, let me show you what I got. Went out to Goodwill, obviously, and picked this up. So this is going to be our ice tray. We're going to drill a little hole here in the corner so that it could hook up to our drain tube. And then I've got these 2 blocks of wood here to elevate it above the shelf. See, they're at an angle, just so it doesn't interfere with this or the downdraft. I have it removed right now. I was doing some preliminary tests. You could see a thermometer in there. And I was noticing it looked like that downdraft duct was interfering with airflow. So I'm going to do some more experiments later. And I might end up just drilling more holes in this. I don't know. But to encourage airflow with these blocks, you can see where I've marked this out non-precisely. And I'm going to go and cut this out just so air can flow underneath it when the tray is elevated. Well, air can flow a little better. I'll word it that way. Anyway, let's go out and do that real quick. All right, not exactly icebox weather, but, well, the world is currently my icebox. Anyway, come out to the backyard, cut those notches out of the wood, and to do that, I have my vintage Black & Decker jigsaw. Yeah, I know, a power tool. I can't believe it either. But here we are. So I'm just going to cut this real quick, probably in a mildly incorrect way, but I kind of don't care. This probably isn't safe. And these are what they look like cut. I did take them and spray them with a rubberized coating, in this case Flex Seal brand, since I happen to have some, only because these will be in direct contact with the metal pan, which may get condensation in it. So I thought it would be a good idea to seal them. And it's not the best job, but these aren't exactly going to be visible. And this is not a high dollar project, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of airflow underneath these then. I apologize, it's been a couple of weeks since I last filmed, so I don't exactly remember where we left off. But I put a drip pan underneath it. I think I might have told you I got a new metal tray from Goodwill. Didn't spend that much on it. I still need to drill a hole in it. And you may notice I removed the downdraft duct. Well, I tried using this a little bit, and the inside, with just some ice packs, I want to say that. And I did notice the inside only got down to like 68 when it was like 70 in the house. I believe this downdraft air duct was restricting airflow a little too much. And I'm considering drilling more holes in the bottom. That might kind of ruin our convection thing we got going. But, I mean, if I can get it to work, I think that's more important. Anyway, next thing I'm going to do is obviously drill a hole in this pan, and I'm going to put a little funnel on top of this, the drain pipe. And then what I really want to do is I want to do some actual testing with this. I want to see if I could actually make blocks of ice to put up in the top portion and see how cold that gets it and how long we can sustain that temperature. So hopefully we'll get to that real soon. I just got to do some quick things beforehand. Well, time for an update. I've drilled the drain hole in the ice pan, as I said I would. I cheated and used a power drill, I'm sorry. And the top shelf now looks like Swiss cheese in an attempt to get more airflow. Well, we'll see how it works. Worst case scenario, if I decide to go back, I could always just replace it with a piece of plywood. So after getting all that done, I've taken to doing just some testing to see what it can do. The temperature inside the house right now is 74, which, as evidenced by the open door, is the same temperature as outside. Currently, I have just some ice packs in here. Not a block of ice, but that is something I want to try because I feel like it will be more effective. The temperature within the ice box is a little cooler. It's about 70, 69. And it was a little cooler when I opened it 5 minutes ago. Of course, I also probably lost a lot of the cold when I opened it and had it open for about 40 seconds. So, oh, you could see also I put a little funnel there just so the drain is a little better. So, overall, without insulating it further, such as gluing some styrofoam panels to the inside, I think I might have made a vegetable-like storage cabinet at the very minimum. Which, okay, like I said, there's definitely ways I can improve it. But I'll take that if nothing else, I guess. I did not explicitly record the time. In that first one, it was, if you noticed on the thermostat, 12:25 p.m. And it is currently 2:25 p.m., so almost exactly, well, exactly 2 hours later. So, without opening it for 2 hours, let's see what we got now. 68. I can't say this thermometer is inaccurate, but like you can feel cold air in here. So, all right. 68, I guess. Maybe it does need more insulation. Okay, so it is now 4:30, and what do we have here? It's definitely cooler. Still like 69 or 70. Definitely much cooler than outside though. So maybe we have just made a like produce cabinet. I'm still gonna go try it with a block of ice. Also, I'm curious to do this on a hotter day. Whoops. Does it only get it to about, what's the temperature right now? 77. I'm curious now. Does this only get it to, you know, maybe like 8 degrees below ambient temperature? Or will it consistently be like 68, 69 degrees in there? I'm guessing the latter, but we'll have to try it on a warmer day. Inside, currently 72 degrees at 10:34 a.m. That is the same temperature as outside, as evidenced by the open windows. And this time, I have some ice blocks to put in this thing. So let's try that. Yep. 2 big honking blocks of ice. Just like they would have done it back in the day. Let's see if this makes a difference. Alright, so it's 73. It's 12:09 p.m., so little over 2 hours later. The batteries in that clock are dying. Been that way for a couple of days. But we're still solid ice. What do we got here? We got like 67, 68. So it may consistently run 68 degrees. All right, maybe we have made a produce cooler. I don't know. All right, at 3:19 p.m., inside is 75 degrees. Let's see what the damage is. Okay, it kind of melted a little bit. Yeah, about 69. Okay. I thought a little bit had overflowed into the drip pan. Oh, yeah. There was a little bit. All Alrighty. And once again, it's 6 o'clock. It is 76 inside the house. Alright. Although those are taking a while to melt. Yep, like 68 degrees. Noticeably cooler than outside. So, well, I give this project, honestly, like a 7 out of 10. It did work. I think something we could have done to improve the thermal efficiency of it, get it colder, is take 1/4 inch or maybe 1/2 inch foam board and glue it to the inside, like glue it all along the sides and the back and the door, which would have given this a greater insulation. But I'm not too concerned about that because I did not intend this for regular use. So I figure I won't mess with the good aesthetics I have going, even though it'll never really be open. Well, 68 degrees or around there. That's honestly pretty okay for just keeping produce or bread, or, you know, I'll probably use this during parties just to keep dips cool, you know. So it is a useful unit. And there are probably ways to improve upon it. So, with that, have fun building.